Ooh, ding dong. Hello, Sean. Ding dong. Hello, Sean. Ding dong. Hello, Sean. Ding dong. Hello, Sean. Ding dong.
Good afternoon and welcome to Idle Insights. My name is Dylan and Happy New Year. I am coming to you live from the isolated and quite full of junk at this point corner of my living room in beautiful Victoria, BC, Canada. And I have a very special guest today. And before I get to that very special guest, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our moderator Jay and our co-executive producer Erica, as well as a huge thanks to Dungeons and Dragons for hosting us on the official D&D Twitch. It is and will always be an honor to be here. So my guest today is Sara Thompson. Sara is a disability consultant based in the United Kingdom who has worked on what is it? I always get that name wrong. Talorsian Games.
Talsorian.
Talsorian. Damn it! I knew it. Who has blessed us with the allowing us to include the amazing Talin Uran in Idle Champions. Welcome to the show.
Hi, no, thank you for asking me on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So usually there's a sort of series of questions that we go through with pretty much everybody who comes on the show. We talk about your history with tabletop role playing games and D&D, specifically when you started with D&D. I'm very interested in hearing about the development of the combat wheelchair and the history of Talon. But first, when did your Dungeons and Dragons journey begin? When did you start with D&D?
It didn't really start properly until sixth form, which is basically like the end of high school before you go to university in the UK. So that's when I started playing like 5th edition a lot and really got into Dungeons and Dragons. Before that, I'd had like one experience with 4th edition, but it wasn't a great experience. More to do with the group than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like 5th edition and playing that in 6th form. And then I went and actually joined a society at university just to solely play like Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games.
That's awesome. Is that a common thing at post-secondary institutions in the UK? Because I don't remember there being a D&D group when I did any of my visits to post-secondary.
So we didn't have one in our like high school when we went there, but at university we had like loads of different societies, and one of them was strictly like just for tabletop and for LARPing, and like you could go and like solely focus on those things.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, that is super cool. Right on. And then because when did 5e come out? 5e is like 5-6 years old now.
I think it's 6.
Yeah, 6. That sounds right. Yeah, because the D&D Next test I think was like 2014. Oh god, no, it's 2021. Yeah, it's at least 6 years old now.
Yeah.
I haven't had to write down the date on anything yet with handwriting, but I know that if I did, I would probably still put 2020.
Yeah.
Because we're in week 54 or 55 of 2020. So, getting into playing D&D, what led you to the development of the combat wheelchair?
It kind of came from when I used to play D&D characters. I typically played like typical heroes, able-bodied, even though I wasn't able-bodied myself. And I asked one day if I could make a character who had a disability like me, and our DM was like, you could, but there's not any rules for that, so like you'll just need to take some penalties to your stats. And I was like, that's not how disability really works. It's not a good way of conveying that. And like I then like was on Twitter, got more involved in the community, found other disabled people in the D&D and TTRPG community, and talked with them. And it got to a point where I was playing a game with some people I'd met in that community, and I made an offhand comment and said it'd be really cool if like you could have a wheelchair like how you have it in Murder Ball, but specifically for Dungeons and Dragons, so like you could use it in combat. And it was then like a year of research and working on it and making playtest versions for my friends, and then that led to what I posted in August, which was like version 2.0. Which is the most recent version that's out at the moment.
How much playtesting goes into trying to design something like this?
Quite a bit. It was a lot of because I specifically was looking for feedback from disabled people, especially people who use wheelchairs. So I was like, finding people and my friends and being like, hey, would you play a character and use this rule set? In the very beginning, it was very bare bones. It was pretty much like just attacks and things. And then they were like, oh, here's some other things to consider in terms of like, specifics for combat, like how would magic affect certain things? Is it a magic item? And then, so what started as like a few tiny rules became, like an 18-page PDF. And then like it was just playtesting with friends, getting feedback from people in the community as well, and then using that feedback from their experiences to try and get the experiences like as matched as well as possible in the rule set, because I wanted it to reflect real life people.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. And then from there, when did Matt Mercer reach out to you before, or before introducing a character using a combat wheelchair on a Critical Role, or was it something that happened that just happened and then he talked about it afterwards?
No, it was. I think it was around November, because Dagon came out at like the end of November, beginning of December time. I think. I don't know. I can't remember. Time has been really strange since lockdown.
Yeah.
But a few weeks before the show, Matt reached out and was like, hey, I've made this character. I've talked to disability consultants about this character and got feedback from them. And I want to put this NPC in Critical Role using your rule set. Would that be okay? And I was like, of course, because, that's, a great way to use such a big platform to promote something with diversity. So that was really cool. It was a little surreal, but it was really cool.
Yeah. Were you already somebody who watches Critical Role, or like how did that fit into it?
I've kind of watched Critical Role like on and off. Like I haven't religiously followed it, unlike some of my friends. Like I've got friends who are massive fans of Critical Role, and we were in a call and I just offhand mentioned, oh, there's going to be an NPC next week that uses the combat wheelchair, and my friend who like really religiously follows it just freaked out. Was really excited about it. So yeah, it was really cool to see like my friends' responses to those to Dagon, and then to also see it on Twitter as well, like seeing fan art of Dagon was really cool.
Yeah.
And other disabled people also talking about it, saying how cool it was that they had a character who uses a wheelchair like them or is disabled like them, and how much that meant to them.
Yeah, and especially like the artists in the Critical Role community are like nothing else.
Amazing art.
They're so talented. It's just nuts. One of our frequent collaborators, Max Dunbar, is a professional comic artist, is constantly posting sketches from Critical Role, and you're like, oh, it's just like your off time is you're also are doing art, but you're just doing amazing fan art for the show.
Yeah, it's like amazing quality, but also incredibly fast, because like within an hour of that show having aired, people were like, here's like 50 pieces of fan art I've done, and I was like, how did you do it that quick? It's amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty overwhelming, that just how active and engaged that community is.
Yeah.
And now here we are. We've Talin Uran has joined Idle Champions as of it's Thursday today, so yesterday at 12 Pacific. I guess that would have been 8 for you, 8 p.m.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Ish.
Ish.
Assuming time works the way that I think it does. And tell me about Talon. Where did Talon come from?
Talon is a character that I made a while ago when the Combat Wheelchair version 2.0 went out in August. He was a character I'd made because I wanted to test out the rule set myself and also play with using it. And Talon, I haven't played him very often. I've played him in the How We Roll podcast. I played him as a guest.
Yeah.
I played him as a guest in the Rime of the Frost Maiden, and he got to confront some kobolds and help fight a dragon, so that was really fun. And then after that, I'd played him in a dragon heist game, a few sessions that I played in that, because we played like a little one-shot within Dragon Heist. And that was really fun. And that's kind of like where his whole backstory and like ties to Jarlaxle came from, was like it carried over from that small adventure I played through.
Cool. Do you have plans for the future of Talon? Like where would you want Talon to go from here?
I've been telling like friends and things, if we can coordinate it, that I'd really love to play Talon like in a full adventure, like, you know, to have the experience of going through like a whole campaign. I'd really like to play him in a Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, because I just think that'd be really fun. Or the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I think, would also be really fun to play around with as well, because he's had some experience pirating because he worked for the Brigandar for a while, so there's ties there. I'd really love to just like be able to play him more and kind of flesh him out as he is now, because currently I've only really got his backstory and how he currently is. I haven't got like any kind of plans for the future exactly, because that all comes from role playing for me. So yeah, I think it's very much I would love to play him in a full game sometime.
Now, when you say no plans for it, like I totally get that whatever your roleplay experience is going to dictate. But like, do you have an arc or a trajectory that you want for Talon? Like, if you're Talon, like, what do you want out of life? Like, where do you want to go?
Well, Talon is he used to be in the Grandma's Blades, which is like a really old gang that was in Waterdeep. I cannot remember what edition they are mentioned in. I think it's either 3.5 or 4th edition they were last mentioned. And so he was a member of that, left that, joined the Brigandar, had an argument, left that. So I think he would probably be kind of looking for like a place to belong with people that he would like to belong with. The thing is, like with roleplay and stuff as well, is I want to kind of lean more into his whole thing of, he doesn't approve of what Jarlaxle does, but he is a hypocrite, because whatever Jarlaxle does, he would also do himself if it benefited him. But like he would, you know, tell Jarlaxle off for doing pretty much the same thing. Because it's, in Talon's eyes, it's different when Talon does it. It's more justified when Talon does it. So I would really like to lean into that. And I would like to, explore whether he joins another gang or whether an adventuring party is enough for him. And I think personally, like he probably would fit better with like an actual adventuring party, like a close-knit group of friends, because he's only ever had very few close friends before. So like it would be nice to be able to have an arc where, you know, he learns to be friends with more people and have more deep relationships with people.
Now, we talked a little bit before the show about wheelchair BMX and Aaron Fotheringham, but it also kind of, I think, that whole topic really speaks to the design of the combat wheelchair in the art that I've seen and in the miniatures that I've seen online. Was that something that you had in mind when you were coming up with the design for the rule set, or was that something that came up later?
No, Aaron Fotheringham had always been kind of like a big inspiration on like what are your limitations with using a chair in a very like sporty or athletic way, because, you know, that kind of translates over very well to combat in D&D. And then there is also the Paralympics as well, with things like wheelchair fencing, and wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby. Like the whole year that I kind of spent, putting the research in was watching things like that, and borrowing books from like my university library, like that kind of covered sports and Paralympic sports as well, just to kind of, you know, understand the perspective and like how can I translate this over into a rule set that is fun to use but isn't really really complex, because I didn't want it to be, really like all over the place. I wanted kind of streamlined rule sets.
Hmm.
So yeah, like it took some time doing that, but Aaron Fotheringham, um, and his stage name, for anybody in chat who wants to know, is Wheels with a Z at the end, and he does, as you were saying, like WCMXing, which is basically BMXing but using a wheelchair. And it is amazing, and very intense, and it's where a lot of the inspiration came from. The same with wheelchair using rock climbers. They are amazing as well, and you should definitely check them out. Someone recently tweeted to me saying that they fell down a YouTube rabbit hole today, just kind of researching and looking through everything, and they were really like impressed because they hadn't known about or considered it before. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was really fun, and when you read the combat wheelchair, it was definitely like a massive influence on it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that it's not something that it's not a rabbit hole that you might normally fall down, or like it's easy to be disconnected because if a wheelchair isn't a part of your life anywhere, either in your immediate family or yourself or friends, then it's not necessarily something that comes to mind. I think of like my closest connection being a friend of a friend who got into a biking accident and paralyzed himself and now plays murder ball. But I hadn't really heard of murder ball before that was mentioned, and then you look it up and you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it is this one of the scariest looking sports on the planet. Uh, and there's a really good documentary about it. If anybody hasn't seen it, I'm pretty sure it's actually just called Murder Ball,
Yeah, it is.
and it's very good. And
I think it's up on YouTube. I think you can get it on YouTube.
oh,
I think
probably, yeah,
maybe.
I imagine.
Um, but yeah, it's very good. Definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Looks like we have a couple questions from our players. Let's see. Some comments. One player saying that they really enjoy Talon's style, and they like the scatter attacks. And another one saying that they really like that Talon uses the chair to his advantage and not as a hindrance. It makes him awesome. And then Star Chaser 43 asks, would Talon consider leading an adventuring party?
I think it wouldn't be out the realm of possibility. He's been like kind of in like second in command positions before. He's never really taken full lead. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he would feel that way. Maybe if he trusted the party like enough, that he would probably lead them, for sure. Like I think he also has that kind of like cocksure attitude, and like I think that would lean well into like being a leader.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely that would be something I would genuinely like to explore in a game for sure.
Cool. Um, it's funny. Just thinking about, as I was mentioning before, that I've been following your work for a while, and I remember a few months ago, you posting a thread talking about The Witcher and making I think, very compelling and fair argument for the fact that Geralt of Rivia is also somebody who is disabled, and there was a mixed response on the internet.
Yeah.
But can you? I'm curious, what led you to do that analysis to begin with? Like, were you just reading the books and you're like, well, actually, like, where did that come from?
I first read the books, the novels, when I was 21, and I really kind of connected deeply with the whole chronic pain that Geralt deals with, and how like it affected his attitude. Like it would genuinely make him angry and frustrated at times,
Hmm.
because at that point in my life, I felt that way about a lot of my disability and my chronic illness, and seeing him, learn to live with his disability, rather than like see it as something set against him at every turn. It kind of helped me deal with like my own internalized ableism, and I wanted to bring it up because I was like, I hope that they explore that in the TV show, because I really did enjoy season 1, even though that there were some things to do with disability and that I didn't agree with. But season 2, like if they must, it'll probably be in season 3 considering the book order. If they do explore that, like I really wanted it to be something that they focused on, because it was such a big part of Geralt in the books, which I think a lot of people kind of washed over because people don't usually consider chronic pain as being a disability, but it most certainly is. Even people who have chronic pain like go, oh, but I'm not disabled, but then when they actually consider how much it impacts their everyday, they're like, okay, yeah, like now I understand that it is a disability. And yeah, it really, like, I wanted to make that analysis because I thought it was kind of important to speak on that, and to also guide other people with chronic pain and things like that towards those books, that they may find some benefit from them the same way that I found comfort in them. Yeah, so that was like one of the main reasons. And also as well, I think at the time there was someone that we were talking about on Twitter about like the importance of disabled heroes. So getting to like them make a thread on a disabled hero who meant a lot to me made sense. So I went, and put that out there. But like you said, the opinions were very mixed from people. Yeah, but that's the way of the internet. But it was a really nice thread to write, because at the end of the day, I did get a lot of like DMs and emails in my work email, from people saying I hadn't realized that before, or I did realize that but didn't feel like I could talk about it. In like either they were afraid of any backlash, or because they didn't know how to really put it down into words how they felt about it. So that was really nice. And I also had people saying like, I went and bought the Witcher books today because like you talked about it in your thread and now I really want to read them. Or I started watching the show because now I really want to know about this character more. So yeah, it was definitely worth making, regardless of the mixed opinions that I got from it.
Yeah, it was really interesting timing, I think, in that when the lockdown first happened here in early March last year, and I realized right away, I'm like, I need more books. I'm like, what haven't I read that I really want to read? I'm like, well, I haven't read The Witcher, and so I ordered the first one, and it showed up, and I read it, and I'm like, I need to read all of the rest of these. So I ordered all the rest of them.
Yeah.
And I made my way through the series, and I want to say it's Baptism of Fire is the one where the injury occurs. That sounds right. I read them a little bit. I read them back to back and very quickly, so they kind of blur a bit. But
and like it's at the very end of like Time of Contempt, and then it goes into Baptism of Fire, which is the immediate kind of like aftermath.
Right. Yeah, because Baptism of Fire starts with him and Brokilon.
And it introduces Regis, who's like by far my favorite.
A very interesting character. Yeah.
I loved him.
Anybody named Regis is a good character, and the one in The Witcher is no exception for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I thought they did a great job in the books. Spoilers for books that have been around for 25, 30 years. But they build up Geralt as like no regular human person could possibly hope to fight a Witcher. But the Witchers did get wiped out at some point, or nearly wiped out. And then he doesn't win all his fights.
No.
And then the aftermath and how he copes, or mostly how he struggles to cope with it over the course of the rest of the books. Personally, when I read it, I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Like, it's kind of, I didn't give it a second thought, but I've been living with a spinal injury since 2009. So, it's pain is a part of life, which is why I'm always moving in my chairs and shuffling around and in between calls and meetings, lying down on the floor and trying to stretch and, but it's just, so anyways, thank you for that thread, because it kind of like it triggered for me just I I hadn't thought about that in the book, and I thought back through the rest of the books that I'd like just finished reading. I'm like, yeah, and it really resonated, and I thought that was very cool. And I thought it was especially cool that the showrunner of the Netflix show called out your thread and talked about it. And so I hope that they are able to incorporate something, in spite of the very mixed response that your thread received. But yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that they do it justice, because that seems fair.
Yeah, like I hope so, because I've been doing research in my time. I've got some books and things. I've got one on medieval medicine and disability from medieval ages, and they show you like the knee braces and things that they used to make, and it's like, well, The Witcher is pseudo medieval Europe, so that would perfectly translate over very well. So like, fingers crossed that we get to see something cool like that, because the things then did exist, so they perfectly would fit in something like The Witcher.
So tell me about your work on the other Witcher.
Yeah, the tabletop role-playing game, The Witcher. At the moment, I'm writing adventures. I've written an adventure for the upcoming Book of Tales that comes out, I think, sometime this year. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember. And I'm also writing an adventure for the newly announced Tome of Chaos, which is basically a really big exploration into the magic in the Witcher world, and things like that as well. So I've been doing work on that, and because it's our Talsorian Games, I've kind of dabbled in a few other of their products. I helped with prosthetics in Castle Falkenstein, and I helped bring in a combat wheelchair / what we're calling a cyber chair, which is for Cyberpunk Red, which comes out in a month or so. I think it's going to be like a free online thing that people can download and use. That's
super cool. Is that something that you're finding like you're really what's the word I'm looking for? I'm like struggling to articulate a thought. Working on adventures and stuff, like, is that something that you're really passionate about? Like, is that something, like, do you do D&D adventures as well? Do you do like a lot of different rule sets, or is it just something that you're working on as part of our Talsorian?
It's kind of a mix. Like, I really do enjoy writing adventures, and I really enjoy like writing NPCs and encounters and monsters and making things like that for characters to interact with. And I also really enjoy making rule sets as well. I've made free rule sets in my own time. They aren't like anything official from Talsorian, but for disabled witchers and disabled mages, and it covers things like if you're playing a blind witcher or a hard of hearing witcher or mage, how would they spellcast? How would they locate a monster and fight that monster? And it all fits in with the actual lore and rules of magic in the actual Witcher setting from both novels, games, and kind of touches on the TV show and from like the TTRPG as well, using the TTRPG rules sets to like help build more rules. And I did some really fun things with prosthetics for witchers, which are able to be used in the same way like a silver or a steel sword is used, that they're able to like punch a monster unconscious using this really hefty like arm prosthetic or leg prosthetic, and things like that. There's also like things that were really fun upgrades to do for them, because you can pick upgrades to have on like your base prosthetic. And one that my friend really enjoyed was they were playing in a campaign that was set in Novigrad, which is like a really big city in The Witcher. And they were supposed to be capturing a sorceress, and she kept escaping. So he upgraded his arm prosthetic to have dimeritium in it. So when he grabbed her, she couldn't use any magic. And he really enjoyed that. That became like a really like fun thing from the campaign, that like a significant moment for him. He really did enjoy it. So it was nice to know my rules were enjoyed.
That's super cool. Like, what kind of resources do you need to look for when you're building something like that?
Like in terms of building the rules, or
Yeah. Sorry. In terms of like conceptualizing these different types of prosthetics, but also then writing out the rules and stuff. Like, what is the R&D like for trying to develop that?
um, it's kind of like taking staple prosthetics, things like that. With like the books that I have upstairs, I looked through, medieval medicine and disability treatments, looking specifically at prosthetics. What kind of braces did they have for like joints that were injured, and things like that. And then I was thinking, okay, now what if I modified it to fight a monster? How could I creatively do that? So it was, having silver and meteorite steel being what these prosthetics are made out of, because then a witcher can also use signs and like won't damage the prosthetic, because meteorite steel is very important with mixed with silver for when you're casting magic, because it acts as a conduit. So like that also translated over to mages and sorceresses as well when I was making them. It's very much a like what is there already and how can I make it themed for a very specific use. So like for the witches it was very specific, and then for the mages it was also very specific. And I'm going to be making some other prosthetics as well for things like bards and merchants that have like little upgrades of a bard can have inside like a little panel that they can open in their wrist, and inside is things like sheet music or pens and quills and ink. And the same for like merchants, things like that, because they're classes that don't have any magic in The Witcher. So it's finding ways that how can you make it less of just what one of my friends described as like a piece of like fluff for backstory, where like it doesn't really like interact with the character at all, because disability is very much a thing that interacts with the disabled person. So having there be mechanics and things in place for people to then actually make use of the prosthetic and have it be very much a part of the character and very much a part of the story that they're telling with that character. And that's usually the mindset like I go into these like rule sets with when I make them. And as always, like asking disabled friends to play test what are their opinions, what needs changing, what's realistic, what really it isn't suited at all, and things like that. Because one of those things that I talk about on Twitter as well is despite being a disability consultant, I obviously don't have every experience of every single disability, so it's important to reach out to other people who do have different experiences, because disability is a spectrum and not a monolith. So it's important to always be reaching out to other people with different experiences, taking their feedback into account on things like this, because it helps make the rule sets be the best that they can be, to make characters the best that they can be as well.
I was going to ask about that, because you mentioned how would a blind witcher do something, or how would how do you do the different aspects of signs if you're missing a limb or what have you. And I was curious how do you imagine that, because I personally would I think I would probably have a really hard time. I'm like, how would a blind person do it? And just like spend a lot of time thinking about it. But if you have people in your network who can authentically give you explain their experiences to you and give you feedback on it, then I imagine that helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And like as you were saying, like how would a blind witcher do it? Like I actually went back through the Witcher novels and the TTRPG, and I was like, okay, so chaos, which is the term for magic in The Witcher, it runs through everything. Witches are sensitive to it, and so are their medallions. So I can incorporate the medallion shaking in the direction of a monster to be like, that's where the monster is, and things like that as well. It was the same for spellcasting whilst blind as well. Is that basically mages can sense chaos within people, so any like ranged or specific target spells, they can actually locate where the target for the spell is or would be, so that they're able to then cast their spells.
That's super cool. Huh. There's a few other comments in the chat. One of them was from somebody asking if there are any channels where they can see you playing Talon in a D&D game, or if there are any series that you're regularly a part of.
No, there's actually kind of nothing that I'm regularly a part of at the moment. There is going to be on, I believe it's the Sirenscape Twitch, in about a month or two. I'm playing a character in a Cyberpunk Red game who uses a cyber chair, and her name is Nyx Phosphate. She's really cool. And I'll be playing in that once a week. It's a short adventure. I think it's about 6 weeks, 6 episodes, something like that. There is a channel that I founded, and that is Heroes Without Limits. That also has a Twitch. You can see many different disabled, chronically ill, neurodivergent people playing TTRPGs, any TTRPG, and the cast, the producers, and the characters themselves are all either disabled, chronically ill, neurodivergent. So yeah, you can check out that. We usually have like 3 shows on a week, all different TTRPGs. Some of them are like consistent series, some are just one shots. So you can definitely check them out if you're interested.
Cool. Let's see. Another player said that they definitely bought chess because they loved Talon's design. And someone named Bizarka said they're a big fan of your creation and what you've helped open up for players. That they have so many new players excited to try the combat wheelchair. So I thought that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
And somebody else is talking about disguising the combat wheelchair inside something. I'm not sure I understand that comment. Disguise the combat wheelchair inside a sedan chair. They'll never see a combat wheelchair and 2 long stabs coming.
Yeah, I mean, you technically could, because the combat wheelchair has a feature which is essentially it's part of the character. So if a character casts a disguise self spell, they can disguise the chair as well and make it look however they want. It's the same for druids when they wild shape. They can either have the chair become a part of like the animal's legs, or they can have it be like you see dogs that have like wheelchair harnesses like that as well, and it does all the same things whilst in that magical form.
Huh. Neat. Yeah, I hadn't considered it. That's a super cool idea, though. Somebody saying "see to it" is saying that they've never been as excited for a hero as Talon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was really exciting and surreal to be asked, yeah, can we put this character in our game? It was really cool.
Thanks for letting us do it. Representation is something you always have to push for. So we're happy to be able to when we can. It's been like my stream yesterday. I was like very overwhelmed and rambly because seeing my character and then like seeing, oh look, it's Jarlaxle, oh look, it's Cthulhu as well. Like it's very emotional seeing my character there with other characters that I have seen from either other games or enjoyed as part of like shows and things. So yeah, it's very very cool, to say the least. So I have to ask you, is that an elvish tattoo?
Yes, it's the One Ring description.
Okay. I was going to ask what it said next. Yeah, I was just curious because I saw you lift your arm up earlier and I was like, looking on the screen.
The One Ring to Rule Them All poem in Elvish.
Nice. That's cool. I only have one tattoo, but it's like everything all the way up.
Yeah, I'm working on a sleeve on my left arm as well. I'm getting a Star Wars, the Clone Wars full sleeve.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
And at the moment, I only have Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan on the top of my arm.
Who else are you going to include?
Ventress, Darth Maul, and I'm definitely going to include Rex because I love Captain Rex. He's one of my favorite characters. And then the background and things is going to be like some of my favorite ships from the series. So I've got a couple Y-wings, and the Republic gunship, which is one of my favorite ships from the show.
That's cool. Yeah, it's been a weird few years for Star Wars since Disney purchased it. And
Yeah.
one thing beyond, like, you knew they were going to make more Star Wars films. Like that was always going to happen. But what you did not expect was that they would ever finish Clone Wars. That they would. The whole series was building up to something, and it just cuts off. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And then they're like, new season of Clone Wars is coming out. It's going to wrap it up. I was like,
Yeah.
and then and then it was incredible. It was so good.
Yeah. The animation style was really beautiful as well. I loved it.
Yeah, like not only was it, I mean, you go back to the first episodes and you're like, yeesh, a little bit, some of the first episodes don't look so great.
Everyone looks like action figures, yeah.
Yeah, and then, Ahsoka Tano did not start out as one of my favorite characters. But ended as one of, if very near the top of the favorites. Like the way the series ended was so good. And like the show comes back and you're like, wow, this animation's way better than I remember it being. And it's like, no, it's because it is better. And then like when they get towards the last like 4 or 5 episodes, when when the titles go red and the music is a completely different orchestrated score, and like the whole tone of the show shifts for what is essentially the episodes that take place during Revenge of the Sith. And it was some of the best Star Wars that's ever been. It was amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
They even got Ray Park to choreograph another Darth Maul fight scene for it.
Yes, that was really cool. I enjoyed that fight scene a lot.
It was awesome. Yeah, and then now there's going to be a live action Ahsoka and all this other stuff that's kind of overwhelming. But I hope it's good. I hope they maintain the quality, please.
Yeah, I'm looking forward specifically to the Bad Batch because that's in the same style as Clone Wars and kind of picks up some of my favorite clones. So like I'm fingers crossed super excited for that one.
Yeah, they seem to, a lot of them, they struggle to come up with a lot of really creative characterization for what is essentially an army of the same person. But like there are a bunch of really memorable ones. And the Bad Batch, of course, are among the most memorable because they're so unique.
Yeah. And it's very impressive considering it's all just D. Bradley Baker doing different versions of the same people, which is always really fun to like watch because you see how much characterization is put into them. It's
absolutely. Yeah, it's like watching, oh God, I'm forgetting her name right now. The woman who, Tatiana Maslany do Orphan Black. I don't know if you've ever watched that.
Yeah.
But her acting was so good that you could tell when she was playing one of the specific clones pretending to be one of the other ones. You're like, oh, that's Allison pretending to be whoever. And like, mind-blowingly good acting. Anyways, getting sidetracked. I could talk about Star Wars forever. And would be more than happy to. I assume you watched the new season of The Mandalorian that you're finished.
Yeah.
Without really spoiling it, what was the end of that season like for you?
It was very touching. Like I got emotional during it. I thought season 2 had a lot of like clearly fan service, but done in a very good way. I felt like, and I put that down to people like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni working on it. That it had like all these nice little touches, and the season where a certain character we've already mentioned turns up and they play her theme from Clone Wars, and I was very emotional. The whole season was very good.
I was happy that they approached that like tearing off the Band-Aid. You wondered if it was going to be like a whole long episode to it. It's like, no, 3 seconds into the episode, there she is. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's where this is going. And then I had a lot of friends who would stay up until midnight to watch it because the episodes would always. It seemed like they would release at like midnight Pacific time. I guess that's a Hollywood thing for us, anyways.
They released at 3 in the morning in the UK, I believe, and I stayed up to watch them at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. And I was talking to B. Dave Walters about it, and he's like, "Oh, you stay up and you watch it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And like I did that a couple of times, but for For the finale, I didn't, and I'm glad because I would not have gone to bed at all because I ended
Yeah.
up watching it while I was working. Like just had like on my second screen while I was trying to get work done on my last work day of the year last year, and I'm like a blubbering mess, like. Ugh.
Yeah,
Then,
definitely.
and then afterwards, my wife was like, "You watched it without me?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll watch it again. I'm going to watch it at least 2 or 3 more times. Just let me know when you want to watch it. We're doing it." um, and yeah, it was super cool. Alrighty, got some more feedback here. Let's see. I like how if you put Talon in the back row, he will shortcut those melee. He takes a shortcut by going left off screen and then appearing on the other side of the screen. Oh yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, that is what the animation would do.
Yeah, there's a really nice animation. Like when he goes backwards, like it begins to like go all shadowy and he fades into shadows the same way that Jarl Axel does. It's really nice.
Yeah, I have them both on screen there just so that people can kind of see that alternating back and forth. And a shout out to our art team for the animation because, I mean, they always do such a good job. They're very consistently awesome. But this was definitely another example of like, wow, that looks really, really good.
Yeah, I've been talking about the small attention to detail. So like obviously all of like the daggers motifs on his wheels that spin when he pushes the chair, and also the little swing of the lantern as well is really cute. Like I think that adds a lot of momentum to the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah, it looks super cool. I want to say Alexis did that, but I don't know for sure that it was Alexis. But Alexis is the artist in charge of Idle Champions these days, so totally awesome job. What else do we have for feedback? Really hoping that Talon will help normalize disabilities in fantasy and science fiction and RPGs outside for just and RPG outside for just to gain extra. I don't understand the second half of their comment. But yeah, hoping that Talon will help to normalize disabilities in fantasy and science fiction.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so as well. The same way that like with Dagon Underthorn as well from Critical Role. Like, you know, having these characters be there and be very explicitly shown to be disabled, and have it, you know, be someone was talking to me today saying that they were really happy that Talon's disability isn't treated as I've said before, like that kind of fluff just for like backstory drama. It's very much a part of him. And to see it interacting on screen with him and with other characters was very important to them, which was like, you know, a really nice comment to read and wake up to. So yeah, I really do hope it encourages more people to either include disabled NPCs in their games, or for more players to feel confident or comfortable enough to try playing a disabled character. And you know that for disabled players as well, that they feel confident coming to a table with a disabled character. You know, that they don't have that kind of worry or fear that the DM will turn them away, or say you can't do that because there aren't any rules, because there are rules now. So you know, you can use it in game. And I also hope as well that it helps other people feel creative and like want to make their own rules. Like I've had ideas and things myself for things like crutches or seeing canes, hearing aids, things like that, to, you know, work and try and include in D&D or other TTRPGs. I recently did some work with Paizo on Pathfinder 2nd edition for this, and getting to work with them, and you know, I want other people to feel like they can be creative and you know, include disabilities more.
Do you have any tips that you would give somebody who is running a game and some of the player characters are disabled characters?
Yeah, if you're a DM, you know, don't be afraid to mess up. It will happen. Like you'll either say something ableist or do something without meaning it, that comes across in a bad way. even like disabled people I've played with, or I've myself have made slip ups, used terminology that is outdated, things like that. If you're corrected, don't see it as an attack on you as a person. Just see it as, okay, that's an opportunity to learn. What do I need to do for next time? Make a note of it and do better. And especially with the Candlekeep Mysteries, I think it is, that's got announced recently by Wizards.
I think this week.
Yeah,
They announced it.
got it got announced
Monday,
either
maybe?
yesterday or the day before. Yeah, it was time. Is a social construct. It's not real. But yeah, the Candlekeep Mysteries. Jennifer Kretschmer, Dreamwisp on Twitter, making an accessible dungeon. So hopefully, people who DM and play through that, and player characters who play through that, you'll be able to see how it can be done, and then use it as inspiration moving forward, either when you make your own content, or if you want to change and update certain other dungeons from other 5th edition modules, because and with players as well, like the same applies. If you yourself aren't disabled and want to play a disabled character, reach out to people who are disabled and who have the experience you're looking to convey through your character, because there are plenty of consultants out there that you can drop a Ko-fi to talk to, and things like that. And very much it's worth doing the research. There are plenty of free resources on Google as well. Like there are blogs, Twitters, YouTube channels, all dedicated by disabled people for talking about disability. So make the most of it. Like the whole of the internet is at your fingertips. Make the most of it. Because there are a lot of cool and good resources out there. And even looking around on things like Amazon, you can usually get books written by disabled people, whether you get Kindle versions or physical copies. There's a book by I believe it's Amanda Leduc, which is called Disfigured, which is about disability in fantasy and fairy tales. So it's really good to use as inspiration for D&D and other fantasy games. Like it's really good to look at and read through. I've been making use of it for my own games. And there are even books that you can get that have essays and things written by disabled people about their lived experiences and interactions that they've had with other people. So yeah, the information is there, and always be open to learning more. Or if somebody says, hey, what you said is ableist, don't take it as a slight against you. Just see it as, okay, I apologize, and let me know what terms I should be using, and then move forward doing better. Mm-hmm. And that's really the way forward.
Awesome, thank you. I have a few comments as we start to wrap things up. Somebody's saying that after watching you last night, they found the miniatures made in the UK and ordered several. They're looking forward to using them playing old D&D inspired board game Dungeon with their daughter.
Oh, nice.
And then the same person also asked, they're curious, they're like, they have a player who plays an orc character who's missing an eye and has a prosthetic leg, and they've never given them any penalties for it, but they're curious if you can think of any advantages for them to have that could bring some sort of a spice to their sessions.
There's a really good example in a video game, believe it or not, Dragon Age Inquisition, Iron Bull. He is blind in one eye, and he knows enemies will typically try and attack on the side they believe he can't see very well on. So he will deliberately, fight in a way that like he basically taunts people into attacking the left-hand side of his body, but he knows that they're going to go for it there anyway, so he has like advantage on then attacking them when they approach him. Yeah. So yeah, it's very good. Thinking about things in that kind of way, it's about like, how does disability interact with the person and the situation, and it's definitely worth talking to people who are blind or have low vision. about, how would you go about conveying certain things? How does this situation interact with your disability? How can I show it sensitively and as best as I can? And again, like I said, there are a lot of disability consultants out there who you can tip a Ko-fi to just to ask a couple of questions and get some information from.
Cool. Before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to shout out?
Not really. January's kind of been busy getting back into work and everything. But you can follow me on Twitter. The URL for my Twitter is underneath my name, Mustangsart. And I have links there for the Combat Wheelchair version 2.0 that you can access for free. I'll retweet it probably today, so it's at the top of my feed.
Mm-hmm.
There is pinned tweet there as well, which is kind of like a very brief introductory guide to ableist language, what to avoid, and things as well. And it also has a lot of information that other disabled people have chipped in with, so definitely worth reading, especially because it's all there in one place for free. I also have links there to my Ko-fi and my Patreon. On my Patreon, I do like monthly content for different TTRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also make sure that I retweet or make a tweet about the Witcher content that I've made for free with the prosthetics and for mages and witchers. But yeah, like everything I do is pretty much over on my Twitter. So that's really pretty much the only thing to shout out. And on Monday, I am on Codename Entertainment's Lore.
Oh, right. Yes. Champions of Lore coming up this Monday.
I'm doing Champions of Lore. I'm talking about Talon a bit more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And, talking about like his friendship with people like Jarl Axel. So if you're interested in seeing that and listening to it or tuning in, definitely please do.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice to see you and to like interact with any questions anyone has.
Yeah, and V. Dave Walters and Aaron M. Evans and Trevor Bettis are all awesome humans who are fun to chat with, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know that it's 10 p.m. for you, so
yeah, it's 10 p.m.
It's getting a little later.
The joys of living in the UK.
Yeah, thanks. Still, I appreciate it. Thank you for making the time to join us and for allowing us to bring Talon to the game. It's very appreciated.
No, thank you for inviting me, and also thank you for wanting Talon to be in the game. It's really important. It's a big step forward, and it means a lot, not just to me but to other people in the community as well.
It's absolutely awesome. All right, thanks, Sarah. Take care. That was cool. I've been looking forward to that chat for a while because we were just looking forward to bringing Sarah on the show. It takes a lot to put yourself out there in the way that Sarah has, and it's super impressive. And the rule set's very cool, and it's just awesome to see the recognition coming in. And yes, some of the social media, some of the response is mixed, but who cares what they think? I think it's great. I think representation is awesome. Anyways, hello. My name is Dylan. It has been a month, almost exactly, since the last time I streamed. Because I think my last stream was on the 18th of December? No, 17th of December. That was the last one of last year with Mark Muir. Yeah, so I hope you are all well. I hope you're enjoying 2020 Part 2. We are only 50 more weeks to go. And I hope wherever you are that you're able to keep safe and healthy, and that you're getting vaccines, and that it's rolling out, and that things are getting better for you, because it's life. It's been a challenge for a while, just happy to make it into a new year, and we'll see how things go this time around. Welcome back, Dylan. Happy New Year. I hope 2021 is off to a good start for you. Yeah, I mean, my daughter's birthday is coming up at the end of the month. She'll be turning 1. Excited for that. Not that anybody can come to a party for it, so we'll see what happens. You kind of worry that you're raising a small human without enough socialization and that they'll be awkward adults, but what you gonna do? It's this is the world that we live in right now. But I am happy to see things like here in British Columbia, we've actually run out of vaccines, which is a good thing because it means that we were vaccinating at an accelerated enough pace that we ran out of the stockpile that we had. Not that we had a stockpile so much as we got our shipments in and then we got them out quickly, which is good because it means that that the infrastructure, the emergency infrastructure being put in place to vaccinate people and deal with these vaccines that have such specific requirements for how to transport them around and use them went well, and that as more come in, more people will get vaccinated, and it looks like, and I'm not an expert, I am not an epidemiologist, nor am I a doctor. I read the news. But it looks like, a significant percentage of people living in BC can be vaccinated by the spring. And that, depending on how things go, the bulk of people could be done by the summer. We could have herd immunity by the summer, which is incredible. That's incredible. And I hope that, I know one thing, like, once Canada being the kind of country that once we're vaccinated, we will help other people get vaccinated too. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to being able to visit my brothers and sisters in the U.S. in Hawaii and Texas, and seeing a lot of family that I haven't seen, and also hanging out with friends. I miss that. We all miss that. Hanging out with friends is great. But I am also very happy to stay home and not do that while things calm down. So, it's not like there's a shortage of television coming to streaming services or anything like that. There is a lot of content if you need to pass your time that way. You miss your friends so much. I hear you. A couple of my very closest friends live in this city, and I have seen them each once since this time last year. No, twice since this time last year, because they visited shortly after my daughter was born, and then I saw them each one more time last year. And of course, those other times were like distanced. We had a brief window in our summer, here in BC at least, when you could travel for non-essential purposes, and so we visited those friends and had like a sort of distance picnic type deal. That was fun, but it's been interesting. But on a positive note, I'm playing more D&D. I had the great fortune of playing some D&D with Garwar and Obo Lauren and Luke McKay and Dream Wisp Jen and Trontonian in December. That was a really fun session. Shout out to Garwar. And also, everybody should start bugging Garwar to release a campaign source book for his campaign setting, because more Garwar, more. That was fun. What else? I mean, I'd say what's new, but I mean, what is new? What is new anymore? When everybody stays at home all the time, like a lot of my clothes, like normally I buy new clothes on a more regular basis than I have been, for example. So it is what it is, right? I'm sorry to hear that, David Samuel. I hope things get better. Yeah. At least we're at least like there's online communities. I mean, that's really kind of what keeps me and I'm sure a lot of people going, is being able to play games with people online. Playing a lot of D&D over Zoom calls, which is definitely not my favorite way to do it, but I am very happy that we can, and that there are resources like Roll20 and D&D Beyond, Fantasy Grounds, other different tools and rule sets that aren't coming to mind immediately, but like, you know, I have my shelf of Ash, one of my shelves of D&D books right here, in quick reach, along with my bags of dice and stuff, because I like rolling dice. But I mean, yeah, a lot of describing stuff online, and then like screen sharing to show a map, you know, kind of stuff. It's been interesting, but I'm glad it's at least possible. I'd hate for board games and stuff to be a complete casualty of the pandemic. Yeah. So what else is new? At the end of the first week back in the new year, we released another set of hidden combinations, which I thought was number 3, but I was corrected by Thunder that it was actually round 4. So round 4, the 21 hidden combinations of 2021, of which 10 have been found already. So not giving you guys any hints. You're doing just fine. Although I must admit, mostly low-hanging fruit that has been discovered so far. The difficult ones to find have not been at all found. So, you know, there's the easier stuff, and then it gets more difficult. And some of them require some pretty specific background information about the characters, or are very character specific. Some of them have been phrases in like in blogs or in other parts of our website related to different characters. And at least one of them, I reached out to the character's creator and got a hint based on their backstory. So, Dylan, is there an evil code? I have not made a new evil code. So there are currently no active evil codes. Yeah, not this time. However, no, you can't even really make the argument that any of these are evil codes out of the 21. But I did share a screenshot of this nice chunk up here, which has now been disrupted. It's not as perfect as it was because I have received other chests, but yeah. You know, I screenshotted just pictures of all the chests, and the reason these are all sitting here in my inventory is because sorry, having a brain fart. Is because I tested the codes to make sure they work, so I know that they work. So they can be found. They are active. They work. I also double checked with one of our developers, Peter. Shout out to Peter, to make sure that they weren't duplicate codes, because sometimes one of our other shows will use a code like combat wheelchair like way earlier than they probably should. Sean, I'm looking at you. And then I can't use it for the episode where we have the creator of the combat wheelchair on the show. But if I made a new one, I could add that as the name, and then it just wouldn't work because it would look for the first one, and it's a mess. So, anyways, I can confirm that there are no typos or nothing wrong with any of the 2021 hidden combinations. Yeah. What else? What else can we talk about? We have more Twitch shows in development. 2 in progress. One will be making its debut soon. When I say soon, I mean early next week, and we'll talk about it then. But yeah, we have another show coming before the end of this month, and then another one coming next month that is, God, it's ambitious. And I can't wait to start talking about it, but not yet. There are more shows in development, which is pretty cool. Pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about Talon. I'm gonna actually finish this adventure, and then actually, you know what? I think I'm out of tokens, so I'm going to 2,600. So I'm gonna go over to my contracts and round these numbers off, and then hopefully I'll have enough tokens to yeah, there we go. Now I can start the remaining adventure. So let's do that. Yeah. Okay, Dead Winter Dodge. Must have completed Dead Winter Day. Cost 5,000 gift boxes. Talon starts in the formation. It cannot be moved. Only champions with a high dexterity or a higher... with Dex 14 or higher and Intelligence 12 are smart and dodgy people. Alright, let's do this. Just put these familiars down. Smart and dodgy. Oh, would you look at that? We were asked recently whether or not we have any other disabled champions in the game. And so obviously we have Esmeralda Devonier. You can see her prosthetic leg, as well as Talin Uran in the game. What you may not also know is that Evelyn Marthane has a prosthetic leg, which isn't something that Anna Prosser has talked about a huge amount about the character over the course of their adventures. But yeah, Evelyn's got a prosthetic leg. And then Lazaps has a prosthetic arm. So I'm just going to put them in there, because why not? But I can't put Evelyn in, because I imagine it's because Evelyn's not smart enough for this adventure. So, yeah. Jarlaxle's missing an eye. So Jarlaxle is actually not missing an eye. Jarlaxle's eye patch is actually a magic item called, I want to say it's Knave's eye patch is what he calls it. I can't actually remember what specializations to pick for these characters, so I'm just going to pick them at random. Yeah, Jarlaxle has a magic item called Knave's eye patch. And while I looked that up on D&D Beyond, because I kind of want to talk about it a little bit, I'm going to tell you guys a story about one of the games I'm DMing in which my player characters were robbed by Zardoz Zord in a Waterdeep Dragon Heist. For those who know the campaign book, Zardoz Zord is the alias for one Jarlaxle Bainray, the captain of the Eye Catcher. This massive, ostentatious galleon that's in the middle of the harbor in Waterdeep. And then his other two boats are the Hellraiser and the Heartseeker, and they're the ones that have like this massive Luskan traveling circus on it. And they do stuff. So the players who had finally found the MacGuffin, they finally got their hands on the Stone of Galore, were robbed by Zardoz Zord. Because they haven't really been that discreet in what they've been looking for, and they get robbed by him, and they don't know who he is, and they're like, "Let's go kill that guy." And they rolled quite well. They managed to track Zardoz Zord back to the dock ward and spy on him as he like kind of went back to his ship, and then they came up with a plan to like sneak out there and get on the boat, and like they rolled really well. They snuck past. I kept dropping hints about the nature of what was going on. For all intents and purposes in my game, the Drow, the Drow accent and speaking Elvish is like sort of like a French accent, because I thought it was funny, and because Chris Perkins played Jarlaxle as a Frenchman in as part of Acquisitions Incorporated, and I forgot Quill in his wing. Yes. Sorry, somebody wrote that in chat. So they sneak out there, and I'm like, yeah, all the crew members, like, they appear human, but they're tall and very thin, and they speak Elvish with an accent that you can't quite place. And they're like, and none of them like rolled well enough on history to be like, actually, that's a whatever accent, right? And they managed to get right up to the captain's cabin and force their way in. And then they tried to attack Jarlaxle and his what I had set up as he had a what do you call it? A nimble right butler, sort of like managing his cabin. and as soon as they get there, they stopped rolling well and just got the floor mopped with them. I think the players were pretty angry by the end of the session, in that like they just got beaten so badly by Jarlaxle, who basically then forces them into a crappy deal for them to help him do something. And afterwards they're like, screw him, I don't want to help him. And so I, as a DM, it brings me no greater joy than to manage a character, an NPC, that the PCs absolutely hate. Like, hate so much. That feels like success to me. Yeah. Anyways, Knave's eye patch. Hold on a second. Magic's items. Where are you? So Knave's eye patch. What does it do? Wondrous item. You have advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight. If you have sunlight sensitivity, you are unaffected by it. Pretty helpful. And you are immune to magic that allows creatures to read your thoughts or determine whether you are lying. And creatures can only communicate telepathically with you if you allow it. So it's a super helpful item, the Knave's eye patch. Yeah, but I mean, like, Charlaxle's just so unfair for people to fight. Like, never mind that he's a CR15 rogue, he can attack 3 times with his rapier, he's got all that stuff. He's attuned to 5 magic items, and they're good. So, you know, if the PCs had done any research at all to try and figure out who Zardazord is, they might have been able to find, you know, hints that the crew are actually drow. Like, I would have been able to, like, give them more information, but they just wanted to barge headlong onto his boat to try and take him out, and it was an ill-fated excursion that, you know, if one of them convinced him, he's like, they just want to talk. He's like, good. He's like, but I need to teach you a lesson first. And he KO'd the rest of them. It was really quite satisfying. It was fun to play. Anyways. What is the keyboard shortcut for placing familiars? I'm sure somebody in chat has already answered that, but you hold down F. Is Quill considered an amputee? You know, that's a good question for Tom Hazel. I don't know anything about the nature of how Quill lost a wing and an arm, but which I guess you can't really see with this, can you? Because he's got tentacles and stuff instead. I need to switch him over to the one that hasn't been corrupted by Hadar. There you go. Yeah, there's Quill. What else we got? I don't think we have any others right now. Anywho, how are you all doing? What was your? I hope you had holidays to enjoy. Yeah, what was your? What was the end of your year like? I know a lot of people have been. Oh, I see. There's a crawl question. I knew there'd be a crawl question. Let's see. Okay, so Seeney's been happy enough with Quell's performance since release. I think Justin said there wouldn't be direct nurse in his last stream, but now Quell's eaten a big fix because his performance wasn't matching his bio values. Given the history, wouldn't that fix be to change the bio to reflect the performance he's always had? So no. So the fix that happened with Krull actually was a bug fix. Hold on a second. I have been given a blurb from Jacob who explained the fix to me because I didn't really understand it. He said, he's like, hey Dylan, basically the buff values of the upgrades were applying twice, as they were being applied 2 different places in the code, which meant that the bonuses were being squared of what they should have been. So the upgrades that increased the effect of Draconic Plague, Pilfered Pain, and Traitor by X% were affected by it. So that's what saw the change to Krull. And so that was very much an intended fix because, it was discovered that his upgrades were being applied more than they were supposed to be. That was the bug that was fixed. It has seen a pretty significant change in the effectiveness of Krull for some players. We're going to evaluate it. We'll see. There's a chance it gets changed again. When we did the soft cap increase heading into the winter, we kind of used that we use soft cap increases as a little bit of a chance to better bring everybody to a mid range in terms of effectiveness. And so, we're going to have to wait and see. But that was very much an intended fix. So it wasn't actually a direct nerf. It actually was a fix. I know the effect. I know the result is that it, it feels like a huge nerf, but it wasn't a targeted nerf at all. Anyways, Christmas was quiet. Managed to sneak some parent time on Christmas Day at least. So that's good, Cassius. Yeah, I didn't see any of my parents. It was phone calls and video calls for Christmas. Let's see, Kofina. We're still in an even worse lockdown at the moment because of the quote English variant of COVID. The only light at the moment is the vaccine rolling out. Well, I mean, it's a good thing that we have vaccines here, and that to date, these new emergent strains of COVID appear to also be susceptible to these vaccines, or the vaccines appear to be effective against them, is what I should probably be saying. Again, not an epidemiologist, but so yeah, like I'm glad that there's a light at the end of the tunnel especially for people who are at risk or who are in the sort of danger zone. I don't know, is that the phrasing? People who are at high risk. I should probably just leave it at that. Again, not a health expert. What was the Zorbu seething hatred fix? Oh, that's a good plan. I also got a blurb for that one. Apparently it is a change related to champion effects not being limited to their own instance of their own Modron instance, or their own Modron automation instance. For example, if the code said to find me the seething hatred effect in the game, it now says find me the seething hatred effect in this instance, which would be either that Modron thing or that live play. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's apparently there was a typo that was causing seething hatred to also return the incorrect calculation. Is it true that Krull's trader is not working correctly now? As I understand it, Sean is still attempting to duplicate the issues consistently, and that's kind of like where we're at for that process. I don't have any ETAs on a fix. Let's see. We were told Krull's previous performance was intentional. No, you weren't. Players have based cash and resource investment on it. Perhaps Yanino doesn't cause the performance, but it was still aware of the output. That's not really accurate. We've been saying for almost 2 years that it wasn't working entirely as intended. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That bug got fixed. Is there any chance that you could rework how blacksmithing contracts work? Or I find it really difficult to get gear for all 6 slots and just can't upgrade many of my champion's gear because of this, and would like to have the contracts usable, having them target any gear item the champion currently has. So that's a good question for Justin. In the past, it's always been intended that like you could put it on a champion but not a specific piece of gear, because then people would do something like pick only one piece of gear and put all of their item levels into it, because they don't want to put it into any of the other ones or what have you. And it's just, yeah, it's like Justin will have to give you the rationalization behind it from a developer perspective, but yeah. Krull hasn't been touched since release, and the last we heard, direct nerfs weren't the pain. Plan. So you're thinking of 2 different things. One, like double dipping ultimate abilities was something that was addressed once, and it didn't affect Krull as much as it should have. And now we figured out, oh, there's this instance where for some reason it was squaring Krull's abilities because it was tracking something 2 times. Like, again, it's not a direct nerf. It is literally a bug fix. I know that's a matter of interpretation to a degree, but like we didn't go in being like, hey, Krull's numbers need to come down. We went in and we're like, what is this interaction? This isn't supposed to be here, and we removed it. And if it proves to be problematic long term, then he'll get more soft cap increases or some other boost. So Is Zorbu not as good because something was broken and he will always be what he was, or is he always like this now? What's a good way to put it? So the fix for Zorbu wasn't something that should affect all clients of the game, as I understand it. What was happening was his buff was seeing it across multiple instances, and instead it only looks for it where it's supposed to. I mean, I can try and get a developer to give a more in-depth explanation, but like, because I know that especially when you see a changelog go out and it says fixed bug with Zorbu, or fixed bug with Zorbu's seething hatred, but it doesn't give an exact, full depth explanation about what that thing is, that it can lead to some confusion. So, yeah. Anyways, as I understand it, Zorbu is fine currently. Fixed bug with seething hatred is an epic thing to say. Yeah, it's not descriptive enough of an explanation. So, yeah. I just mean that I want the contract to be usable on gear that a champion has if they don't have gear on all slots. Oh, okay. I totally misunderstood you before, Breeder Cody 365. I mean, to put simply, they're not programmed. The contracts don't work unless you have 6 slots, and that was an intentional part of the design. So, yeah. There's Sean in chat. Seething hatred was showing 0%, and now it's not. That was the issue. Yeah, because it was working. Anyways. So I know that people tend to focus on what they didn't get to have last year, or what they didn't get to do, or where they didn't get to travel to, or the friends they didn't see, etc. But I would love to hear from you what went better than you were expecting, or what was an unexpected good thing about the last year, or about 2020 for you. And like, to give you an idea, like, obviously my daughter was born late January last year. I went back to, I took a month off work, because in Canada I can do that. As a father, I can do that. I can take a month paid by the government to not work for the first month of my child's life, and then I was back at work for 2 weeks before going back home for the entire year. And the thing that stands out the most to me about an unexpectedly amazing thing from last year is that I see my daughter on, most of my breaks while I'm working. I see her constantly. I am far more present in her life than I would be if I was commuting to and from an office. And, like, I was there for her first steps. I've been there for her first words. I've been around. I've been able to participate. I've been able to go for walks with my family. If I was working in the office, I would be up and gone before she was awake most days, and coming home at or around the time that she goes to bed, or after she's already gone to bed, and I would rarely see her. And so for me, like, by far the best part about last year was getting to spend time with my child, and then realizing like how quickly things go by, because holy crap. Just being there for it. Awesome. Just awesome. What else? What do we have in chat? I see some people talking about. Let's see. I loved having a reason to stay home and avoid people. Yeah, fair enough. I think there are quite a few people who have enjoyed that transition. Somebody, Doonan Newt. Oh, an Appleseed fan. That I got to stay employed. Yes, gratitude. Working from home rocks. There's a lot of people working home now.
Let's see. I got a job and been working for a while now. Feels like my life is together a lot more. Hey, congrats, Supfleet. That's awesome. I got to see family, relatives, and friends from non-local locations I would not have seen otherwise. That's awesome. Kuvu plan, that's awesome. Let's see. I started playing Idle Champions in 2020. That's good. Yes, Sir Sylvester, and welcome to the game. Saving a lot of money by not going out for lunch or driving to work. Yes. Money on insurance, money on fuel. Being at home. Granted, I notice. Does anybody else notice that a side effect of being home all the time, whether it's for work or whatever, is that your house is a lot dirtier because you're always here? Yeah. Breaker Fist adopted a pug. Oh, that's cool. What's your pug's name? If you don't mind sharing. Let's see. My gaming group completed our year 5 of our The Strange / Planescape campaign by old school D&D writers Bruce Cordell and Monte Cook. I don't know. We're having session 130 on Saturday. Garth Mindfeather, that's awesome. Planescape is awesome. I wish there was more Planescape stuff in 5e. That would be cool. Let's see. My daughter was born January 21st, so congrats. In a week it'll be first birthday, so this year was the best of my life in a one way. Yeah, Dr. Ranger, yeah. My daughter's turning 1 on January 30th. It's very cool. Let's see. My daughter, who is on the autism spectrum, started her career with a job that she loves and also has a new D&D group due to the job. Roland, HTG, that is amazing. Amazing. That's awesome. Way to go. That's awesome. Let's see. Positives from 2020. Discovered Idle Champions in the wonderful community. Started writing scenarios for other DMs and PCs to play and started editing videos. That is awesome, Star Chaser. Dirk Gently also started playing Idle Champions in 2020. That's awesome. Garwar, I worked from home before, so nothing changed there. But I did get a cool streaming job, and I played and DM'd D&D for the first time. Yes, you did, Garwar. Yeah. Happy to be there for your first DM session, where you were clearly way too good for it to have been the only time that you've done that. And I'm glad that you've managed to start playing D&D. Breaker Fist's pug's name is Turk. I think it's short for turkey. but you don't know? Or did you adopt a pug that already had a name? Turk is a great name for a pug. Seriously. That's super cool. 4pex21. Really a great part of working from home is being able to watch at C&E Game streams. Oh, thank you. Yeah, last year before the pandemic, we had one show. Now we have a few. Let's see. Talon, not talent. My daughters, being home due to the pandemic, have become such close friends. It's a blessing. That is great. Having a sibling is awesome. Yeah. I mean, not that I've been able to see my sibling much this year because she's got they've all got their own things going on. Half of them are in the States, and one of them's here, and she's got a family, so we never see her because she's got her own family to worry about. But looking forward to spending time with her when we can. Let's see. Started Idle Champions in 2020. Got to play D&D with a group of people I greatly respect. Started streaming, and my cat's got way more time in my lap. That's great, Trontonian. Yeah. A suite of shows, a gaggle of shows, a stream of shows, a blessing of shows, a of shows. Love you, Lauren. Kid Like 101. I discovered Critical Role, fell in love with Spurt, so when I heard he was adopted by Idle Champions, started playing, and now I discovered you guys. Hey, welcome. Spurt is a good character. The most memorable 20-minute or so appearance of any character on a show. I think Chris Perkins was there for more than 20 minutes, but I think he had maybe 15, 20 minutes of roleplay time for that character. Yeah. Turk the Pug was 5 years old when he adopted. Okay, so he came with a name and certain issues, but he's a happy member of the family. Hey, that's great. And kudos to you for adopting a dog. That's my first dog was God, how old was she when I got her? I was 4 and she was 2. I want to say, was she a 2-year-old dog? Because we needed a dog that was had already been house trained because when I was 4, one of my younger sisters was born, and yeah, we just wanted to make sure that we got a dog that wasn't gonna have issues with the fact that there was a newborn. So siblings getting along is great. Siblings teaming up on you, yeah. I mean, that's what they do. Thanks for sharing some of your good news with me, everybody. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think a gaggle of shows sounds the best, even though I know it's not necessarily the term. A lineup of shows, a network of shows. I don't know. Anyways, how is this formation doing? Alrighty, how many? Area 175. Okay, I should probably add some other characters to this. Who do I want to add? Because this is a Talon formation, right? So Talon can't be moved. Okay. So I haven't used Talon much. Let's see. So he leaves scatter attacks as he attacks. Okay, that's cool. Spot weakness. All right, and then antagonist. Decreases evil champion DPS, but increases the damage of good champions. Okay, so I want one other good champion and a whole bunch of evil champions in the formation, basically. Who do I want that to be? You're good, so I guess I'm going to replace you with... I don't know, I've only got options for good. Well, that's more difficult. Jalaxel, you're up. Because I am going to remove your damage. Who do I want to be my DPS? No. Oh, there's Artemis. There's Caddy Bree. Who else do we have? Shandy. All right. So do I want a good caster DPS? Maybe I'll use Farida. I haven't used Farida in a while. How many tieflings do I have access to? No, no Javi. No Strix. No Makos. Okay, so not a lot of them. Anyways, I'm gonna treat them like they're the ones. I suppose I could also do, you know what I'm gonna do? Oh no, it's already in the other party. Damn, never mind. Sorry, all my Delina, my Evelyn, and the other Heroes of Baldur's Gate are all in my gem farming party because I never use them. Well, Keelik, I'm gonna replace you with Calliope because Calliope is awesomer, and also already looks like a pirate. Anywho. Where do you guys see the changelog? I don't see anything on the website. So the changelog can be found in-game. Down here. This little icon in the bottom right corner. Actually, I probably need to do this. Down here. Changelog. And if you're on the official Discord, the changelog does... it does show up depending on which platform you've identified with. Although found a bug with some of the fixes that came out the other week, because the changelog information is pulled and posted to the Discord based on the changelog number, and one of the bug fixes went out with a different number, and so the system didn't grab them and automatically post them right away. And so I talked to our dev team about it, and like we'll fix that for the C&E bot that posts the changelogs to the Discord at some point, but it hasn't been addressed yet. Yeah. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that C&E was aware of Krull's performance for a year and commented on it, and this bug was always present. That it was bugged doesn't change the previously okayed performance. To say something is fine and then fix it on these grounds seems misdirected. I mean, I don't agree, because I don't think we ever said that, yeah, it's fine. We said that it was an outlier, and we've talked a lot about how it's been an outlier and how players should expect it at some point to get looked at. And then, yeah, we discovered a previously undiscovered bug and fixed it. I mean, I've lost track of the number of times that I've said that we're aware that we have a few outliers who stand out really far in the spectrum of how powerful champions are in the game. And, you know, we've talked about them a lot. Krull, Averin, and Zorbu, in terms of, you know, who are orders of magnitude more effective than they necessarily should have been. So, you know, we've talked about it a lot, you know, and so it should have been expected that at some point something would be done. But what we didn't expect was that it was a bug. And so we fixed the bug. And yeah, it's had a really significant impact on the performance. Apparently, Peter, the developer lead for our Idle Champions, has said in the Discord that the Krull bug is going to be fixed in the next build. Yeah. Yeah, next build on Steam, so that's good. Yeah. Anyways, nobody's intentionally misled anybody about, hey, this character's perfect, you should spend money on him, and then we're going to change them down the road. We've been pretty clear about Krull since the outset that he was doing too much. And then when we addressed a lot of the ultimate abilities and the way that they were interacting with base ultimate damage and you know, all that stuff, all the double dipping, or in Krull's case, triple dipping, all that was happening. It reined in a lot of the problem at the time, and then yeah, there was another one with Krull that we found recently. What about the Zorbu issue? Have you guys identified what's wrong with it? Yes. So I'm just going to make another note here for the devs to be a little bit more specific in the changelog about what was changed and why. Like in brackets, like when we say fixed Zorbu's whatever, it should also be like in brackets. You know, in some instances it would say that he was doing 0% damage, but that was incorrect. He was doing his full damage the whole time, and it was looking up the damage wrong, which is basically what the bug was. So it wasn't that there was anything wrong with the ability; it was that how good it was doing wasn't showing up right. Which, yeah, admittedly is confusing. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh god, my back is starting to cramp up. I haven't sat still in a chair like this for almost 2 hours in quite a long time. So on the topic of chronic pain and injury, if you ever get the opportunity to not break your back, I suggest you go that route. And that breaking vertebrae in your spine and damaging discs and living with chronic pain is not fun. Yeah. Wait, so did Krull get nerfed or what? Well, I mean, whether or not he was nerfed, I suppose, depends on your point of view. But there was a bug with Krull that was discovered and fixed, and it has led to a significant decrease in his damage. Oh man. I also don't normally talk this much over the course of 2 hours because I'm at home. So I'm like, my throat's drying out and stuff. Oh boy. All right, I'll get back into streaming anytime now. Yeah, first stream back. Yeah, could do this. Just gonna stretch a bit. for those of you who are not on stream already, I recommend that at least once every hour that you get up and move around if you're able. That you stretch and that you don't just like sit in the same position for long stretches of time. It's really bad for you. And then if you have injuries or other things going on, it can also just lead to just more problems. So highly recommend stretching. Highly recommend Pilates, not the weird new ones like original Pilates. Highly recommend RMTs and oh man, yeah. I'm gonna be lying down on the floor on a lacrosse ball after this, trying to work out a kink in my shoulder that has developed over the course of this stream. So, anyways, it's almost 10 to 3, which means that it's almost time to start wrapping things up. So yeah, I apologize if it feels like we've been misleading people about Krull. I thought we've been really clear over the last year and a half or so that Krull's been overperforming, and it led us to the problem with ultimates and double dipping and fixing that thing, and that didn't do enough. And as it turns out, what was also happening was his abilities were being applied squared off themselves. And yeah, if this sees a really significant hit to Krull, which I suspect it does, then I would also expect that the next time we do a soft cap increase, that Krull would get more of an increase. Because stacking abilities like his, we want when it comes to formation abilities like static buffs, like say Calliope's Valor buff is not the kind of buff that should be as high as a buff like Krull's stacking debuffs, because you need to take time to apply and build up debuffs, right? Like the idea is that they would be better. So yeah. Anyways, please keep giving us feedback on it too. I don't want this to feel like this is a one-way thing where I'm just like, no, it's like this now, because your voice matters. We do take that into account when we make changes and we do things. Yeah. Roland HTG, how long until you do another soft cap increase, considering how recent the last one is? That is a really good question. We don't normally do more than a couple a year, so I wouldn't expect us to do radically more than that. I do know that part of our design focus in 2021 is to spend more time on champion balance, and so I'm hoping that we can stick to that as much as possible, and continue to deliver a fun game for everybody who's playing it. Yeah. Anywho, shout outs. So, first things first, shout out to Margaret. I hope you guys enjoyed the clip at the beginning of the episode, which was one of the highlights from last year's shows. Margaret was a real good sport about it. I did check in with her before making that version with the black and white and the slow zoom in. Oh god, that was funny. It was so funny. We actually tried 3 or 4 versions of it, like trying to see what was the funniest one, and the slow zoom was definitely the funniest one, so that's the one we went with. Feel free to clip it. It's about 27 seconds long. You can fit it into a clip just fine. That is intentional. Yeah, so huge shout out to Margaret. Also, a huge shout out to Margaret for that. Not just for that, but because Margaret is my stream alternate. Margaret took over streaming the weekly Idle Champions live stream, as it was known last year, when I was taking some time off to spend time at home with my newborn, and also really days that I can't make it work, whether it's because I'm sick or because there's a technical reason or whatever it is that interrupts my end. Margaret is always first to be like, oh, I'll do it and take over. And we've actually talked about just straight up alternating the stream, because Margaret does Evergreen Champions, and normally I'm doing Bardic Inspiration, and doing 2 shows in a week is kind of exhausting sometimes. And so we talked about splitting the duty for Idle Insights and alternating between us, which we might do starting later this year. We'll see. So shout out to Margaret for that, and shout out to Clive, the third part of the marketing marketeers, the three marketeers as we sometimes call ourselves. Good partner to work on stuff with, especially since our three brains each think very differently. So yeah. We're going to have some very, very exciting announcements in the coming weeks that I look forward to. People keep saying Twitch chat is broken. So I am seeing everybody's chat just fine. So if it's not showing up for you, I have no idea why. Twitch twitching. But I'm not seeing any issue on my end for the broadcast. So at the very least, the VOD will be good. Hopefully. Or at least when I put it on YouTube. So that's super cool. We have a lot of really, really, really fun stuff that we started laying the groundwork for last year and started getting things together, and that we're going to start talking about over the next little while, and I'm very, very excited about it. We're all getting error messages when we put stuff into chat. What? Oh. That is weird. But at least there's only 2 minutes left in the show, so at least it's not an issue for very long. Well, I'm sorry that's happening, everybody. I don't know why. That's super weird. Super weird. Anyways, so anyway, shoutouts all around. This has been the first episode of Idle Insights for the new year. Episode 3, Talon, for January 14th, 2020. Thank you for participating in the chat, in the communities, in the Idle Champions and D&D communities. You guys are awesome. This show exists because of a lot of cool people. First and foremost, because of our producer-moderator, Jay, helping to grab questions for me, helping to answer some of the questions I might have back and forth, moderating chat, running raffles, all those things. Hopefully not in any way responsible for the errors, but I doubt it. That wouldn't be Jay. That would be something else. So shout out to Jay. Jay's awesome. Shout out to Erica, Margaret, Sasha, everybody who also helps contribute to the co-production of this and our other shows on Twitch. And finally, a huge thanks to Sara Thompson at Mustangsart for joining me today from across the pond to talk about Talin Uran, the combat wheelchair, disability representation in gaming, disability consulting, the fact that Geralt of Rivia is disabled. And if you've actually read the books, it's very spelled out for you. I know a lot of people form their opinion of Geralt based on what they've seen of the show and what they've seen of the games, and the games neglected to include his disability at all. That's really it. Anywho, thank you all. You guys are awesome. My heart is a little bit weird shaped, but it's been a time. Anywho, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning for Griddle Champions, which reminds me I should get them some images to make into pancakes. Cheers, everybody.